Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm glad you're here. My name's Cathy. Hope you guys are doing well today. I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about cleansing. For those of you who don't know my story, I have healed over 30 neurological symptoms, including spasmodic dysphonia, vertigo, dizziness, sensitivity to temperature, light, sound, dry mouth, dry eyes, a constant spasm from my right eye down to my right hip, chronic fatigue. I could go on and list my symptoms, but also digestive problems. These are things that I worked on healing for a number of years using medical medium techniques, protocols, cleanses, using mindset, nervous system regulation, and brain rewiring. So it's a combination. We are all a combination of all of the parts of us, the spiritual aspect, the personality that we are, the personality traits that we have, our mental abilities and our mindset. And then also we are kind of victims of circumstance in some way, depending on how many toxins we have been exposed to in our lives, as well as those that got handed down to us from our parents or other types of situations when we were kids. There's a lot of different factors that go into healing. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about a cleanse. For instance, I just started one yesterday because I've been dealing with a respiratory infection and was feeling a little bit of the toll that the holidays took on me. My eating wasn't as pristine as it could have been. I didn't let the things like eggs, gluten, dairy, soy, corn, canola oil, or pork in to my regimen, but I did allow a lot more fat and some other little things that are maybe some preservatives and things like that. Just eating snack foods and such over the holidays. And I really think that that took a toll on my immune system. Not to mention the fact that I had to have some dental work done about a few months ago. I flew on a plane a couple of times. I haven't honestly done a cleanse in a few years. So early on in my journey, I did 9 of them. I did 5 original 369 cleanses, and I did 4 simplified ones. Now, I want to give the caveat that I did stay fat-free and salt-free for an extended period of time. When I wasn't officially on a cleanse, I did avoid fats and stay kind of very strict with my eating for a good part of a year or so. I just wanted to tell you all of this because healing happens in a very slow but deliberate way. And sometimes we have to get into the layers of our liver that is overburdened in order to begin healing some of our symptoms. And sometimes it can feel like we're doing a lot of work and doing a lot of cleansing and our symptoms are still prevalent. But that is because the body is healing from the inside out. Sometimes stuff is going on under the surface that we are not even aware of, that is gradually bringing us back to the point where then the nerves can repair themselves. If you have a long-term nerve condition, a migraine situation, or chronic pain, or chronic fatigue, or anxiety, depression, all of that stuff is basically long-term nerve damage on whatever area of the body that you're feeling the pain or noticing the symptoms. So as we peel away the layers in our liver and get down to the deeper toxins that are in the center of the liver, we can begin to experience more healing as we're purging out these toxins. I've been doing medical medium protocols for over 6 years now. It's hard to believe. That seems like such a long period of time. And you might say, wow, after all this time, why in the world do you still need to do a cleanse? Well, I'll tell you, I am exposed to toxins every day, just like you are. I was like reflecting on my recent respiratory infection that I caught, and I was thinking back, I wonder what laid the groundwork for it to take hold in my body the way it did. And one of the things that I thought of immediately was the night before I started feeling some symptoms, we did a fire pit out in the back, and we used one of those Duraflame logs, which has a lot of toxins in it. I didn't really think much of it. I was like, it's outside. It's not great, but also I'm not going to be constantly living in fear, trying to avoid all of these toxins. So I just sort of, ignored the toxicity of it. But thinking back on it, I wonder if something like that could have depressed my immune system and made me more susceptible to catching the virus that I just got over. So it's so interesting to start thinking about this. We get toxins when we're pumping gas. We get toxins when we're smelling air fresheners in public places. We hopefully we're not using those cleaning supplies and plug-in wall fresheners and things like that in our own homes, because all of that stuff is very toxic to our bodies. So we have to begin, obviously, keeping our own environment pristine as much as possible. But then we have to, when we're out in the world and we have no control, we have to take moments to potentially do a cleanse or take some time to give our immune system the love that it needs after being exposed to some of those things that aren't great for it. So there's a lot of things to, consider. One thing I wanted to mention is that doing a cleanse is so beneficial, but also doing it the right way is super important. And when I say the right way, I mean preparing your body for the cleanse before you actually do it. Our bodies do not like to be shocked. And sometimes if we're super toxic, we have a lot of symptoms and that sort of thing, our bodies can feel a little overwhelmed if we jump right into a cleanse without first preparing our bodies and setting the stage for the cleanse to go well and easily. So what would I do to prepare? Well, first and foremost, I would increase hydration, because most of us have a very sticky, thick blood and lymphatic fluid in our body. So we need to start thinning that out so that the toxins can get moved out once they get released, as is prompted when we're on a cleanse. So that's one really great way to begin doing that. Another thing we can do is prep our lymphatic system by opening up the channels where sometimes can get blocked. So right around the collarbone is the first area when that happens. Then behind the ears and up here, the lymph nodes sometimes can get a little blocked up. We want to keep it flowing. Then we want to get into the chest and then work over into the armpit area. Like that's another point where our lymphatic system, the different vessels come together and can get a little blockage. Then we want to go down to the belly button and massage around the belly button and loosen that up, as well as the creases of the legs between your torso and your legs, and then behind your knees. That's the point. We want to keep that lymphatic fluid kind of flowing so that when we start to think about doing a cleanse, then we are in good shape with our hydration, our lymphatic fluid, and then also we're prepping our body in terms of the changes that we're making with our food. It's really important to begin weeding out the troublemaker foods. Eggs, gluten, dairy, corn, soy, canola oil, and pork are all troublemaker foods that either feed viruses directly or set the stage for the viruses to proliferate and take the upper hand in our bodies. So we want to definitely be starting to work those out of our routine, one at a time, if that's what it takes. Just eliminating gluten or dairy right off the bat. Those two and then also eggs. Those are actually the big three that are probably the hardest to get rid of and then also make the biggest impact. So after we begin rooting out all of those foods for a period of time, over weeks, I would say, then you can begin also starting to bring the fats that you're eating on a daily basis, even healthy fats like avocado or some nuts and that sort of thing, coconut milk. All of those things are healthy fats, but they do gum up the works. And you know how I was talking a little bit ago about the fact that we want to keep our blood thin and our lymphatic fluid thin so that we can also have the ability to move things out. Those fats that are in those things are going to be a little bit of an impediment. As we begin to weed out the fats, then also it gives our liver a little bit of a break from having to produce so much bile to break down those fats and digest them properly. And so it helps us to start weeding those out. Also, the cleanse includes no fat at all. And so it gets our body kind of used to dealing with a situation where it's not receiving a lot of fat. So sometimes that can feel a little bit like a shock because we are oftentimes addicted to fat because our adrenals have to produce adrenaline to help push that fat through because our livers are weakened and the ability for the liver to make bile often has been impeded. And so in taking some of that stress off of the liver, then the liver has the opportunity to devote more energy and focus to actually detoxifying and releasing toxins and doing 2,000 of its other jobs besides having to produce bile for the fat digestion. So it helps us in so many ways to prep for a cleanse by eliminating a lot of fat. So as we're getting down to the wire and want to try to attempt a cleanse, I first would recommend the Simplified 369, which is in the Cleanse to Heal book of medical mediums. That one is the most gentle because it also includes a lot of cooked food if you want. The raw, fat-free situation is the most highly detoxifying. And so sometimes to start out with, you don't want to start with the most intense cleanse. You want to start with the most gentle one to get your body used to it. So starting with the simplified cleanse, you can basically gear up for that cleanse by acclimating yourself to doing at least a few fat-free days in a row. You can start with just one and then see how you do, and then go maybe the next week to try two, and then the next week to try maybe 3 days in a row of fat-free. And then once you can do that without experiencing too much detox, once you can do that without feeling like it's too overwhelming for you, then you might be ready for a full 9-day cleanse. I just tell you all of this because sometimes people, if you're like me, like to just jump in and go full ham. That's what I did when I started my healing journey, and your body's not ready for it. So what happened to me is I jumped on a cleanse basically about 6 weeks after I started my medical medium journey, and I was nowhere near ready for the cleanse. And it sent me into a very escalated moment of some symptoms kicking up and kind of an unpleasant experience. And so what I want you to do is be able to avoid that by doing it gradually and slowly. So we don't want to make it painful. If it's too much, then also I give you full permission to, abandon the cleanse whenever it's feeling like it's overwhelming, and then circle back to a little bit more of the prep that we talked about. Maybe you need a longer period of time with some low fat. You need a longer period of time of just doing a day of fat-free here and there. So don't feel like it's all or nothing, because any steps you move towards cleansing is a beneficial thing for your long-term health and ultimately your symptoms. If you have spasmodic dysphonia or you have Lyme disease symptoms like I did, then you will benefit by doing any bit of this cleansing, even if it's starting with just staying fat-free in the morning time. Because how do you get to be able to do fat-free all day? You start with just a period of time in the morning and stay fat-free for until noon. And then once you can do that successfully, then you begin pushing the noontime fat to maybe 2 o'clock, and then maybe to 4 o'clock, and then maybe to dinner at 6 or 7, whenever you eat dinner. And so eventually, as you push the fat later and later in the day, then you have more time from the time you go to bed at night until you eat fat the next day. Your body's cleansing that whole time, which is really, really beneficial. So this can be done, and I do think it's important for everyone to do some cleanses eventually. But also, I want to make sure you're doing it the right way and prepping your body also the right way. So it's a fun experience and it's a positive experience and not overwhelming. I hope this helped. In my next video, I'm going to talk about mindset and how we can use it to help ensure the best experience and success on the cleanse. All right, well, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you very soon. I love you all. See you next time.